All right. Well, apparently the music sounds like shit, so you just no more music. It's done. It's gone because apparently it sounds horrific. Please hold whilst I fix things. There we go. Okay, cool. I love it. Well, apparently everyone's complaining about it. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Whoever is here, whoever is not here, we'll give it a few more seconds because it is technically like right now is when the meeting is supposed to be starting. So we'll give it a minute. I do want to say real quick, if you guys have any last minute questions you do want to submit to the forum, it is in announcements. You guys can get those in. We will be answering and going through those questions at the end of the meeting. If you guys have any last minute things as well that just kind of pop up in your head throughout the course of the meeting and you don't want to necessarily put a form in and you don't necessarily care about like if it's public, you guys can go to the community meeting questions chat and drop them in there. Please keep that chat for questions only. So drop the question in its entirety, and then either it will be brought up verbally here in the meeting, or it will be answered by community managers or community support team during the course of the meeting. They'll respond to it, so it'll ping you when that happens. If it turns into more of a discussion-based thing, the staff might open a thread with you. Otherwise, they may just say, "Let's just talk about it verbally during the meeting." So normally this is like a full-on admin run thing. But both of my wonderful other admins are either otherwise unavailable or are still waking up. So this is more... I'm going to kind of solo do this for... Yeah, Tease is in bed and Cha-Cha's in pain. So therefore, I am here. You guys have me. So let's go ahead and just make sure I have all my ducks in a row. Whoops. Nope, there we go. Okay. Make sure I have all my notes. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get this shindig on the road. All right, everybody, welcome to the OSRP community meeting. It's been a bit since we've done one of these, so apologies that it has been a minute. But first off, I want to say thank you to all of you guys for making OSRP what it is. This has been a labor of love project for our staff team and those founding members since early of last year, like literally January 1 of last year. So having an awesome community that is as supportive and creative and encouraging and positive as you guys are is literally our lifeblood. So thank you very, very, very much for that, for you guys being here, for helping us build what we have. I want to give a couple quick shout outs to a couple groups of people, and specifically the DOJ players. So the people who are keeping the DOJ afloat. Massive shout out to all of you guys. For those of you who don't know, DOJ is kind of in limbo right now for a couple of different reasons that I'm not going to get into. But the players that are still here who are working tirelessly to keep DOJ afloat, as well as come up with new and innovative ideas to make it better. You guys are doing a huge service to the community as well as to the staff team. So please keep it up. Thank you. All of our LEO cadets that are of this current class, you guys are amazing. It's been very, very cool to see people come in and get into the cadet phase of their LEO career, even if they've never done it before. And it's been awesome to see you guys flourish the way you guys have been. So keep that up as well. Yeah. Okay, cool. So there's my little shout outs. Obviously, a shout out to all you guys normally, but just like those are the highlight ones of like, hey, you guys have been killing it lately and it's been really appreciated and it's been really cool. Which tie in with cadets would be all of our FTOs putting in so many hours to help those cadets out. Okay, cool. That being said, let's go ahead and dive on in. For those of you guys who have not been in our community meetings before, these are general kind of like a mixture of sort of house cleaning things where we talk about some concerns that the staff has that we've observed, things that we are encouraging of that we want to remind players are okay and encouraged to do, ideas for you guys, sometimes announcements about things. So these are just sort of a general sort of housekeeping sort of meeting. So we're going to go through a plethora of things. Apologies if I kind of bounce around. I'm working off of like basically 3 sets of notes that are not necessarily organized. So apologies. But to start off with, I want to go ahead and go through a couple of things to just kind of healthy reminders for all of our players. When it comes to, I'm gonna use a phrase here called invitation to roleplay. I don't know if anyone else uses this term. I just happened to jot it down this week. But basically, invitations to roleplay is any situation where you as a role player are doing something that could inherently invite somebody else into your role play, whether you are verbally inviting them through a text sort of inviting them, like through a /me, or through your actions are inviting them into role play, respect that, follow through with it, continue it, and understand that you are literally being invited into somebody else's role play. And what I mean by that is if you're a criminal speeding through the city and you know red means stop and the speed limit means don't go this fast, then you are literally opening the door of invitation for a cop to pull you over and role play with you. As a cop, you pull somebody over, you are invited into their role play, and now you are a part of that little scene. And both players are expected to respect that scene and understand that you're both involved in that story. Even if it's a 5-second story, you're still involved in it. Respect that, role play through it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the crim has to be, "Hi, officer, what have I done today?" It could literally be, example of like Sosa shit talking the cops, like, "Really, fuck, are you gonna pull me over again?" Totally understandable to play your character the way you're gonna play, but respect that there is an interaction there. Understand that while you're on that traffic stop, that is a RP interaction between the two people. Another example is medical. If you are involved in medical role play, whether you're the downed party or the medic themselves, understand that that is an interaction going back and forth. As the down party, don't just go, "Cool, it's medical, they're going to do the thing," and just tune out, because they're going to expect things from you. They're going to be like, /me, "Are you still bleeding? /me, is the wound closed?" Like they're looking for things from you. Make sure you are responding to those things so that they continue their role play. Otherwise, they're going to be there awkwardly with a /me floating in the air and nothing, and go, "Okay, well, he was bleeding. Is he dead?" So being mindful of when you're involved in those scenarios, pay attention, stay tuned in, continue them all the way through, and respect both players involved. This also goes for investigations. So for our cop players out there, be mindful of if you stumble upon an investigation of some kind, whether it's a long-term investigation that lasts, months of little tidbits of information being dropped, or short-term investigations that last a day or two. Please do your best to follow through on these. I'm speaking not only to all of my cop players, but also to myself. I have personally accidentally dropped like 2 cases already since we've started the server just because of sheer scheduling. And that's not fair to the other receiving player on the other end. So please make sure that if you cannot follow through in the investigation, you either tag in another officer to assist that can, or you pass it off to somebody else who can, or you communicate with the players that are involved to try and not have it die out, or it will become a cold case. Cold cases are not bad, but cold cases still need to be investigated. So just be mindful of that as a cop player, as well as the criminal side of things, which leads me into my next point, evidence tickets. We love evidence tickets. So basically, for those of you who do not know or have never used them, we have a ticket system here under the evidence channel where you can open a ticket directly with staff that allows you, the player, to drop whatever evidence you feel is pertinent to the investigation that you've started as your or the incident you started as your player. You're able to drop in retroactive evidence or in-the-moment evidence that can then be passed on to LEOs. So what I mean by this is, let's say your character has just gone and robbed a store, and you maybe left a scene, or obviously you hit the store, and there's certain things there that the game automatically generates for you. Then you leave and you go, "Shit, it would have been really cool if my mask got snagged on the door on the way out and there'd be some fiber stuck in the door." That is a golden opportunity to open an evidence ticket and say, "Hey, the latest 1090 that happened on Clinton, and this is the information they would have had. You'd also find, these cloth fibers wedged in the door frame that got stuck as the guy ran out." And you can be as articulate or as vague as you want in those tickets. Staff will work with you to make sure that the information gets passed along to LEOs manually, but they'll also make sure that it's not just copy pasta and you're handing yourself over and saying, "Oh, well, it was really Inezca, and Inezca did this." Staff's not going to copy Inezca's name and paste it in there because that's meta. We will literally work with you guys to fine-tune the evidence so that it goes to cops and gives them something to work with, but it doesn't hand you over. No one likes silver platter roleplay, let's just be honest. So please make sure if you do open an evidence ticket, you leave it open until we're done with it. We've had a few players who've opened evidence tickets, didn't know how the system worked, and then immediately closed them, and we missed them. So please make sure that you leave them open until you get pinged by staff that we've tagged it, that we've passed it along to our cops so that they can roleplay with it. If you happen to know the cop involved for whatever reason, make sure you let us know, and we can actually tag them in their evidence system so that they know about it. Otherwise, we will just kind of genuinely announce it that, "Hey, cops, here's evidence that you guys can figure out who it belongs to." So with those in mind, something else we want to kind of bring your guys' attention is pacing. We said this at every meeting, so this isn't like calling anybody out. It's just a general reminder that pacing is very key to our server. We are a story-first server, which means we are not pogs per minute. We are not trying to rush through all these great action scenes and everything, and just rush to the next one. We really want to let the pauses breathe between the different scenarios, which includes like sentencing. So if you've done something small, like you robbed a liquor store and you just swipe stuff off the shelf and you did a shoplifting and ran. Obviously it's a small thing. It's mostly for the role play. Go do your thing, get in jail. You're out in 12 minutes and you're good. Versus if you've done something big, like you've not just shot at cops to try and get away, but you actually tried to kill some cops. Like your guy had a grievance with somebody and you legitimately were trying to kill them, trying to get them down, and you get arrested for it. Maybe a good idea to let your character sit in jail a little bit longer than he or she normally would, just to let that breathe a bit more. Let the severity of the act of trying to gun down cops breathe a little bit. Just because your time has run out in prison and it says you have 0 months doesn't mean you are forced to leave or you have to leave. You can stay there as long as you want. If you want your character to become a perma character in prison after an act like that, that is totally your right to do so. And you can stay there as long as you want, as long as you don't interact with the phone. It won't kick you out. It'll keep spawning you there. You have access to all the things inside prison, all of that. It is okay to as T said, let those big boy crimes really hit home that, oh shit, they were gone for like a month because they tried to kill so-and-so or whatever. That we encourage that. If you have any questions about that, or you want to actually make a character that actually goes to prison like indefinitely, talk to staff. We can work with you on that. We do recognize that DOC is not a thing right now. I say right now because it is on the docket of things we're working on. It actually has been since before we launched the server. But we understand that's not a thing, so prison RP can be a little bit weird. But if you have any questions around that, or you have some ideas, or hey, if you're interested in actually running the DOC and actually helping us get that up and running, open a ticket with staff. We'd be happy to have the conversation with you. Along with that goes story. Just be mindful as criminals and civilians and cops. This is a story first server. We are not a cops and robbers server. I know sometimes it can feel that way with ping chase, or store robbery, and it does happen. We understand it is still a video game. It is still GTA. There are times when that happens, but the focus of this server is it is story first. It is not action first. So making sure that as criminals, you're being mindful and letting those crimes breathe a bit, or lingering a little bit, or whatever you want to do to add some more pacing and story behind those actions. And along with that, on the other side of that, cops, be mindful of ping chasing, of going, oh shit, there's a call, I have to go to the call. You don't have to go to every call. Action stories are great. Yeah, action stories are wonderful, and action does matter, but so does story. And action stories still have story behind them. So as cops, you don't have to go to every single call. If you have investigations that you're working as a cop and you really want to dedicate time to your investigations, as long as the call is not like, oh no, I'm dying and no one else is responding, you can absolutely let one or two of those slide, focus on your investigation, focus on your interview, focus on the role play that's in front of you before you break that RP encounter to go run to somebody else. It is totally okay to focus on the role play in front of you and not go to other calls as long as somebody else is responding. If you're the only cop on the server and there's a bunch of calls going off, just be aware it's going to be rough. You're not going to be able to respond to every call, but you do need to make sure you are responding to as many as you can, because those are all, as I said before, invitations to role play. And it can be very disheartening as a criminal to hit one store, linger for a bit, no response, go to the next store, linger for a bit, no response, and go, okay, I can't get an interaction with the cop. Maybe they want that interaction, right? Like maybe they're trying to get an interaction with the cops. So obviously it's a big balancing act. There is no clear-cut answer of do this or do that, but just being mindful of pacing, story, and that we are not just an action server. We are a story server. Leading into my next point of all of that is we are a server that strongly supports, encourages, and holds to a motto of RP actions equal RP consequences. Meaning if you do something in character, you are responsible for rolling with those consequences. Now, you're not going to be power gamed or forced into certain things. Like you're not going to be forced permanent. You're not going to be forced into a soft perma or anything like that. But if your character goes and shoots somebody, that would leave evidence. You are obligated as a player to work within our systems to leave certain evidence. You don't have to hand yourself over. We're not expecting you guys to say, oh, this guy did it. But it would leave a shell casing. It would leave blood on the ground. It would leave, something. Along with that goes, if you get arrested for something and it's a big, hefty crime, obviously I will state real quick that the cops work very, very, very hard to not screw criminals over for even very big crimes. Like we will literally sit and deliberate for 5 or 10 minutes on, okay, what do we actually hit them with as opposed to what we should hit them with, so that we don't discourage them doing this out of character. Like we don't say that, but it's like, we don't want to fuck people over with, oh, well, you shot at 6 cops? That's attempted murder of an LEO times 6. You're now fucked forever. We don't want to do that. We want you guys to be able to, get back out, do crime, because, I mean, if we throw you guys all in jail, we will never have any interaction. We don't want that. So cops work very hard to not screw you guys over. On the flip side of that is be mindful of the fact that if you are doing big boy crimes, that is going to come with big boy consequences. We try very hard for there to be a balance there and an understanding that there is weight behind, there's bigger weight behind bigger crimes as opposed to doing like petty crimes like shoplifting and lockpicking a car and, those sorts of things. We try to have that balance in our DOJ and our criminal system, but we also try to make sure that our cops are mindful of that. Moving on to our next point, tasers. Many of you have become familiar with our tasers at this point. I just want to have a couple things here I want to kind of remind everybody of that before I get into tasers specifically is we are completely understanding that our server is a melting pot of so many different communities, so many different RP cultures, and so many different past RP cultures of just like this was the norm for you, that our server is new. It has new expectations. It has different expectations, it has different rules, it has different standards, and we are completely understanding of those cultures clashing. So what I mean by that is, on some servers, it is expected to get tased, get up, get tased, get up, get tased, get up, and you basically are allowed to just keep running until they finally catch you. It's okay on certain servers to voice ID. It's okay on certain servers to do, a number of things. So just as kind of like a general service announcement, general public service announcement, general reminder, one, tasers on our server, we try to make sure that cops are not pulling the taser right away. We give lots of verbal warnings. We give lots of, time for people to run, for people to get away, for people to do something, whether it's attack the cop, whether it's to carjack or something. We give lots of opportunity. So we're not going to pull tasers immediately. When we do pull a taser and do finally discharge it and hit you, you're down for a minute and cops are going to move in for the arrest. It is supposed to be generally accepted at that point, so please go ahead and consider that chase more or less done. Reason being is, if any of you have ever seen a video of someone getting tased, it's not pretty. You literally can see these big, burly, muscular Marines who are like, I'm not afraid of anything, get tased, and they melt and they squeal like a stuck pig as they fall to the ground. And yeah, if you've never watched one, Google like a taser video and you'll see like what they actually do. They are not just like, and then you're back up. I mean, you are down, you usually piss yourself. It's usually a very big ordeal. Granted, we are not a realism server, but we do try to hold a certain level of authenticity. So being mindful of the fact, hey, you just got tased, that would be very painful and you would not be feeling good. However, I was going to say, Jinx just said it, crackheads are unmatched. Exactly. If you are playing a character that is a crackhead or a character that is high on something and wouldn't be able to like have their nervous system functioning properly, behave as you would, understandably. But please understand also you need to be RPing out the other aspects of being a meth head or a crackhead or being high on something. It's a two-way street. You can absolutely RP that your character's not feeling the taser prongs because IRL they wouldn't, but you also need to be understanding that they're coked out of their mind. They're going to be incoherent. They're going to be violent. They're going to be overheating. They're going to be like, there's a whole plethora of things that are going to be happening in conjunction with not feeling the taser shock. So being mindful of those tasers, being mindful of, please try to avoid getting tased, getting up and running, getting up and running, and doing it over and over and over again, because it can feel a little immersion breaking for cops. Along with that same sentiment goes Google lawyering, as we call it. If anyone's played a cop, I'm sure you're familiar with this phrase. I'm sure you're familiar with these characters. If your character would know things, by all means, know the things your character would know and RP with the things that you would know, 100%. But if your character wouldn't realistically know about legal proceedings and DOJ dockets and, policies, doctrines, procedures, and everything like that, it gets really, it's awkward for cops in the cells to have a criminal who's being arrested for, shoplifting or being arrested for aggravated assault or whatever, telling them how to do their job. It's really disheartening. It's really discouraging. It sometimes makes cops want to just flat out log off the server. It's just something that we really would rather people not do. So it's also very exhausting. It takes the fun out of it very quickly. Obviously, if your character would know things, by all means, know what you know and roleplay with that. But if your character wouldn't somewhat realistically know these things, maybe leave that for an out-of-character conversation, a complaint form, hell, talk to a lawyer. Be like, hey, if you out of character go, this feels wrong, let your character roll through it, get a lawyer, and then roll with that and go, yeah, you know what they did was wrong. Let's take them to court. We support that here. You can take people to court over, violations of policy or violations of SOPs or violations of constitutional rights, things like that. It's true. So I will state for the record, we are fully aware that our lawyers count right now is very low. We are working on that. There's an active effort right now to increase our DOJ count. So on that note, sidebar, if anyone's interested in playing a legal-based character, please either open a ticket or go to our application or documentation. There should be some forms there you guys can fill out. If you guys have questions, speak to anybody who's in one of the DOJ roles. We've got a Chief Justice Staff Sergeant David is the one who's helping us run it, along with 2 other judges, which are played by Sixie and Jaybird, as well as there's tons of other DOJ-based characters you guys are free to speak to on that matter if you have questions. You don't have to be good, but if you want to play a character inside that role, please consider it. We would love to have more lawyers on the server that people can actually call. But understand that obviously if your character has a criminal record, practicing law probably is not going to work. So just be aware of that, because I see somebody said Ray Block is going to law school. That being said, let's see. Going through my thing. Okay, all right. Another thing. Some servers do allow, I mentioned this earlier, voice ID. We don't do that here. The reason I say that is because both as criminals or civilians, you cannot hear somebody else's voice if they are wearing a mask or a helmet or some sort of way to conceal themselves, even if they're in a car with the windows up. Just because you hear the voice doesn't mean you know who they are. It could be anybody. Obviously, you can narrow it down like, well, they didn't sound British, they sounded more American, or they sounded more European. That's fine. But knowing exactly who they are based on their voice is unfair to the player because not everybody can do an accent or a voice, and people will change their voices sometimes. You cannot voice ID immediately on people. This includes cops. Cops, if they hear a criminal, are not going to go, well, that sounded like Ray Block, or that sounded like Aniska Dracos. We don't do that. Cops will never do that. It's against our server rules. It's against our SOPs. We do not allow it. That being said, it is not only okay, it is encouraged for criminals when they are conducting crime to banter, to talk to threaten, to whatever with the cops verbally. It is okay. They're not going to go, oh, I know who that is, and they're going to come after you. If you're running from a store, fuck you, pig, you can get in the car and be like, oh, we're going to get away, or whatever you're going to say. It's totally okay. They're not going to ID you based off of that. Same thing when it comes to criminals interacting with each other. You don't necessarily have to disguise your voice if you don't want to, because people aren't going to voice ID you anyways. If you have an issue where you believe you have been voice ID'd, or if somebody else is voice ID'd around you, please open a player report. It doesn't necessarily mean that anyone's going to be in trouble. It could be a simple conversation, but at least bring it to staff's attention so that we can have that discussion and be like, hey, we don't do that here. Here's why. It's just dangerous. So be mindful of not only do we not allow that, it also on the flip side is you're not going to have it happen to you. And if you do, it's a violation of our rules. So it's okay and it's encouraged to banter with people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he sounds familiar, but I can't tell. You don't have to give your name, things like that. It's totally okay. We want to see that. Okay. Going through so many notes. Okay, another thing that I want to bring up real quick. This is going to shift gears a little bit. Actually, no, before I get to that, I'll go to this one. So another thing that is just kind of a general reminder, and this isn't anything like, let me just put it this way. This is just a general kind of, be aware of this. Anyone who plays a banger character on the server, gangbanger, a gangster character, knows that there are AI on the server who are part of said gang. So, for example, you have the Vagos, you have the Balas, you have the families, you got Aztecas, you got MBG, you got Lost. And those AI are already on the server, and they will aggro to anybody. Everybody knows this. And obviously, it's in gang turf. So gangs are going to use them to their advantage. Absolutely. It's your turf. Your homies are going to protect you. You're going to protect your turf. 100%. But be mindful of how you use them and how often you use them as a mechanic to, force or deter interactions. Like what I mean by that is obviously if you're hanging around your turf and somebody comes into your turf, it's a really dangerous move. Like the day that Bucky tried to do a felony stop on the Ballas down in the cul-de-sac, and they were like, dude, do you really want to do this? And it turned into a full-blown gunfight because not only did they have 3 East Side Ballas, they had all the AI going after them as well. So 100% that's going to happen. And that's totally okay. But using it as like a safe house of like running back to that turf no matter what as an immediate get out of jail free card, be mindful of that. Like obviously if it's a big situation, you're like, man, we got to get out. We got to get back to our block. We got to defend the block or whatever. Totally good. but using it as like, I'm getting pulled over for, like, let's say a traffic stop, which is super minor, and I don't want to get a ticket, so I'm going to run back to the block because I know if I go there, I immediately outnumber everybody. Just be mindful of that. That can feel a little disheartening as a cop. It can feel a little video gamey as a cop. So just be mindful of that. But yeah, I mean, but remember, those gang members are technically parts of those gangs. There's a reason we're very supportive of those lore gangs on this server. Okay. Okay, next, like I said, this is now kind of shift gears a little bit. This is more of a request from staff as an entire team. Two things, actually. One is, as you guys are aware, so to give you guys a little bit of background, staff has two kinds of characters we play on the server. We have what we as staff team refer to as story characters and admin characters. Admin characters are the characters that we play that provide a service to the server or a mechanic to the server, or are there to facilitate something, or there to observe the server. So some of you have met some of these characters, and they don't have a story. They're not on all the time. They don't really interact with things. They are there to provide a mechanic or a service to the server for you guys to enjoy and work with. The other characters are story characters. Those are the characters we play to have fun. So these are the characters, for example, for me, Gizmo. For those of you guys who know the Vago character I have, he is one of my story characters. He earns the money he makes. He buys the things he wants, and I don't use any sort of mechanics to further his roleplay. He just exists in the server, and I play him. Now, I make that distinction because when we are on either of these characters, but specifically our story characters, we are here to enjoy the server. We are there to play and enjoy the server that we helped create so that we can have fun with it too. And a request from staff to you guys is when we're on any of these characters, please be mindful of bringing up like server-related topics in front of us or to us. For example, like, hey, they're like articulating in character about a bug that exists, or, oh, this car feels weird, or basically like out of character poking us about things that need to be fixed from a server standpoint, but doing so in character because you have a staff member in front of you who's listening. Every once in a while it makes sense, especially if it's egregious, if it's a big deal. It's like, hey, this is a really big deal. This needs to be fixed, or it's going to break things, or it's an exploit or something. That's a little different. But if it's a situation of like, I don't like the way this car handles, or I don't like getting paid this much, let that be a help chat. Let that be a bug report. Let that be a support ticket. Please don't bring it up in character in front of staff, or to staff directly just because you have one in front of you, because it's really disheartening. Like, okay, well, I just want to role play. I just want to enjoy the server. I don't want to be bombarded with staff things just because, because I'm a staff member. We want to be able to enjoy the RP too. We want to be able to enjoy the server. And yeah, it can kill the mood. Now, obviously, if staff characters ask you an in-character question, that's different. We're asking you a question. You're obviously entitled and expected to answer. But if we don't open that door, please don't open it for us. That's just kind of a humble request from staff so that we can enjoy the server as well. Along with that, this is of a different direction, but just as a general clarity, transparency thing for the server is, as a staff team, this is very big, and there's a lot of people in this community who will vouch for this and know this. We do not tolerate nepotism, handouts, or favoritism in this community. We don't do it to each other. We don't do it for our friends. We don't do it for anyone we've known for a long period of time. We are trying to be as fair as possible across the board. This includes like opening tickets with staff to ask for favors or ask for special handouts. This includes asking for special mechanics or assets that you think would be cool as your player or your character to have, with no foundational basis for the request, just because you happen to know staff because you're friends with us. We don't do that, and we don't take very kindly to that. If you want something in character, you want something on the server, roleplay and show us that you're working towards it, or you've already made the efforts for it, and we will reward that. We've already done it numerous times. We continue to do it. Like, part of what I do every night when I get home from work, if I am not doing something like McNeil related or something staff related, I am on the server watching people. I am watching what people are doing and seeing, cool, they're doing this, they're doing that. I'm going to reward this. This is almost there. I want to see where this goes. And we're going to drop things at you guys, whether it's an item, whether it's a mechanic, whether it's an opportunity. We're going to do that. It's happened. People in this community can raise their hands and vouch that, yep, it's already happened to me. I've already been dropped this. I've already been handed that. We want to reward you guys. Like, literally, we literally sit here wanting to hand you guys things, but we need to make sure it's going to go to people who are going to use it, people who are going to actually like if we hand them a mechanic, they're not going to disappear in a week, or they ask for a business and the business is going to go under in 3 days. We want people to get things that they're going to use and further and push roleplay to other people across the board. So please, please, please do not open tickets with staff asking for things unless it's like, hey, I have an idea. Here's like what I've already been doing, or here's my concept. and then open and have a conversation with us. Don't just ask us for things, because I guarantee if you just come to us and say, hey, can I have this? We're going to say no. We don't want to say no, but we're going to say no. So like we're just be mindful of that, please. Please respect that staff is here for the community, not just for individuals. Even if we are your friends, we're still your friends. We're still going to tell you no unless you give us a good reason to, even if you're our friends. And we may even call you out more of like, bro, you're our friend. What the fuck? Don't do that. So just please be mindful and respectful of that. Okay, and that was my notes. Now we're going to go through the rest of staff's notes. All right, see, we did that. Did that. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Big thing. There we have a rule in our server. If you guys refer back to our rules and our guidelines, we have a couple of rules specifically around story continuation, carrying characters over from other servers, and carrying knowledge over from other servers. Obviously, most of you guys have roleplayed on at least one other GTA server, usually with the characters you already have. There's a reason we let you guys onto the server with the characters that you have. However, we have a very strict rule of you cannot carry over story, you cannot carry over meta, knowledge, or any sort of thing in regard to past RP experience onto this server. It is okay to keep vague like memories and knowledge, like, oh, I remember this one time I arrested this guy, but like no details around the person's name or what happened. Or like, oh, I know this person, and having this vague connection of like, I know this guy from Liberty City, and then like that's like the end of it. Or hey, we used to work together back in the day. That's cool too. But direct story continuations from other server are not okay. They are very jarring for players that are here because everybody's starting from a new baseline. If people are bringing things over from other servers or from other stories that have happened in the past that don't make sense here, it can throw everybody off, and it's just like, that felt weird. Where'd that come from? So please be mindful of like, hey, I do know this person. And here's a good trick. If you know somebody from another server and it's two characters that like already know each other, DM the person and be like, hey, how do you want us to know each other? Or do you want us to know each other? Because they maybe wanted to start over entirely. And if they wanted to start over entirely, it is disrespectful on them to jump on them with like, oh, I remember you. If you want to keep role-playing with that person in the sense of you already know them and have already built some form of a relationship, DM them, be like, hey, obviously we role-play together. Obviously these characters would know each other. How do you want to proceed? How do you want these characters to know each other? And you guys can work collaboratively in a DM and then bring it out on the server. But don't just thrust it on people in the moment without consent from them. But also make sure that you guys are aware that straight continuation, straight carryover is not okay here. This is just kind of our general warning for a lot of people because we've seen it from multiple people so far. No one person is the only guilty party here. A lot of people have done it, which is why instead of having these one-on-one conversations, we're bringing it up publicly because it's been happening a lot. We're all guilty of it. We've all done it. I've done it on accident. It happens. You get excited. You see your friends like, oh my gosh, I know that character. This character knows that character. We've roleplayed together. And it just comes out, or you just do it and you don't think about it. It happens. It's totally okay. It's a mistake. It's a matter of making sure that it ends there. You correct the mistake and you move forward so that it doesn't keep happening. It doesn't become a norm. I won't give any examples because I don't want to call anybody out. It's not fair to you guys. But just as a reminder, if you're like, oh shit, I've done that, don't worry about it. Just don't do it anymore, and we're good. From this point forward, though, if we do see people doing that, there will be a ticket open. It's just going to be a conversation of, hey, dude, please don't do that. This is why. This is our server rule. We're going to reference the rule, and it's just going to be a conversation. If it continues to happen, staff may get involved a little more heavy-handedly because it is kind of a big deal because this is a story-first server, and it is a new server. So just please be mindful of that moving forward. Be conscientious of it. Gangs. If you want to start a group or a gang, whether one that's already lore-based, and you want to like kick it off the ground, like for example, like Aztecas right now don't have any active members. If you want to like kick that off, or if you want to start a brand new gang that doesn't exist in GTA lore, that's not on the server, open a ticket with us. We need to have it on the books just because we're trying to be mindful of how many gang characters we have, where they are, because we have staff things in the background we keep an eye on for server health reasons. We want to be mindful of that, but also we want to help you guys. So if there's anything we can do to help you guys get that started, we will help you. So if you have an idea for a gang, you want to start one, and it's not just like, I'm going to start a gang, I'm going to run it by myself, and then I'm going to disappear, and you actually genuinely want to push one, open a ticket, talk to us. We will work with you and get that running. But it's one of those things where just jumping into the server right away and starting a gang is okay, but you don't be shocked if we end up opening a ticket with you and asking questions and be like, hey, are you starting a gang? Is this like a turf thing? Is this a color thing? Just so that we're all on the same page. And exactly like T said, it helps us know if shit goes down, we got you covered. But it also helps us understand of like, okay, this group has claimed this color in this turf. That way, if another group pops up and wants to do the same thing in off hours when you're not around, we can go to bat for you and be like, I see what you're doing, but another group's already claimed that turf and has that color, and then we can go to bat for you. Okay, grinding. Yes, we see you grinders on the server. We know you're there. Obviously, in roleplay, there's a certain amount of accepted grinding that everybody understands has to happen to keep your bills paid, whether you're paying off a car, whether you're trying to save up for some guns for your gang or whatever. We all understand there is a level of grinding that is just inherently going to happen in GTA roleplay. Please be mindful as players about your grinding. If you are going to be grinding, please make sure you're at least trying to roleplay while doing it. Or make sure you're balancing your hours of grinding with your hours of roleplay. Like one of the things I used to do back in the day is I'd go and I'd sell a product or I'd go do something and I'd make money for like an hour or two. And then I'd go roleplay for an hour or two. Or what sometimes I'd do is I'd really grind for like 3 or 4 hours and then I wouldn't make money again for like a week. Being mindful, and that's just me. I'm not saying that's what you need to do. I'm just saying that's me. But basically, what we're asking as a staff team is be mindful how many hours you're spending mindlessly making money. Just mindlessly making money on the server without any form of interaction is obviously counter to roleplay, but it also can help. It can actually contribute to breaking the economy of the server and greatly skewing the way our economy is built. Obviously, our economy is in a weird state right now because we have people like our mechanics who are sitting on fuck tons of money, and we're working on that, versus characters who are working more story-based to earn their money and are sitting on much lower bank accounts. But if, you're a standard character and you are going around selling 500 baggies of weed in, a couple of days, whereas some characters usually sell 20 or 30 bags of weed in that amount of time, you're sitting on a lot higher amount of money, which is not bad, but it's like, what were you doing that entire time you were selling weed? Were you role-playing or were you just grinding weed for 6 or 7 hours? RP to grind, not grind to RP. Akin to live. Yeah, everyone has their own motto and thing there. Like, I grind to RP back in the day. I would grind for a couple hours so that I could go RP. Some people RP to grind in the sense of they role-play to then make money, and everyone has their own way of looking at things, but the foundation there is be mindful this is a roleplay server. This is not an MMO. This is not a fictitious money server. This is a roleplay server. It is story. If you have an idea as a player or something, whether it's a gang idea, a civ idea, like a business idea, or a cop, any sort of idea, and it requires a lot of money to do it, come to us. Open a ticket with staff, if you even just want admins or whatever, and be like, hey, here's my idea. It would require this much money. I don't want to grind for 12 or 14 hours to get this much money. But I want to do it. Can you guys help me? We will gladly help you because, if the money is just going to disappear anyways for whatever reason, then we're happy to help. If it's a situation where like, well, I'm trying to buy all these guns for my gang, can you guys help me? That's a little bit different. That you need to earn in character because that is a situation where you are purchasing an item that directly impacts another player. So if you have a question about it or you have an idea, open a ticket, staff will talk to you and we'll work with you. But we don't want to see you guys just be like, well, I have this idea. I'm going to have to grind for an entire week of no RP just making money so I can make this idea a reality. And when staff could have been like, we could have helped you in 40 seconds and you would have had the money you needed to do the thing you want and push roleplay to other people. So talk to us first, please. This is one of those servers where it's better to ask for permission than forgiveness. Okay. Boo. Yes. Another big one. So Pillbox has become a great new hub of roleplay. We've had some awesome nurses and doctor staff that has been popping up and playing consistently. And honestly, staff loves it. As an entire team, we are ecstatic to see an active and thriving Pillbox staff that is almost always, there's almost always somebody there. You have no idea how exciting it is to be able to go there, even in the off hours, as just a random character looking for medical treatment when there's no EMS around, and actually running into a player as opposed to just RPing with a wall. It's amazing. That being said, Pillbox is not a place for anyone to just go linger for long periods of time because there's people there. Pillbox is a hospital. Let me ask, by show of hands, who here in the community on their weekends or on their evenings off or their evenings free, after finishing work or after hanging out with their families, just decides to go to their local hospital and hang out in the waiting room just because they can? I'm going to see if there's anybody. Okay, non-emergency services personnel. that are not IRL first responders. Yeah, see, exactly. Like blood tests, going there for a reason, avoiding hospitals because like the reason I ask that, the reason I'm poking your brains is because if you wouldn't necessarily do it IRL, why are you doing it in character? It's kind of the same thing. If you're not going to jump a car off a bridge because it would kill you, why are you going to go hang out in a hospital when your character is like, a banger or a fry cook or a tow driver? Obviously, if you have to go there, and if like, hey, there's staff on, I need to go update my ICE contacts. I want to donate blood. I want to make sure that they have my blood on file, my DNA on file, like whatever. Go do it. Push RP to the group, absolutely. But once you're done with that role play, move on, go somewhere else. Just lingering there for like 30 plus minutes or like an hour or more is turning into that parking lot RP we're all familiar with, the circle jerk RP we're all familiar with, and we don't want to see that. This includes our cop players. Obviously, cops can run radar over there. They can go check in on PBMC staff every once in a while, but just hanging out at PBMC because it's a place to go be is just it's not okay for cops as it is not okay for everybody else. Especially if you're ignoring CAD alerts to do it. If there are calls coming in, you need to respond. If you're not doing something else like investigating a case or interviewing somebody or role-playing with somebody in the moment, if you're just hanging out at PBMC chatting, go respond to a call. You should not be at PBMC for more than like an hour if you're doing like a lot of extensive medical RP. If you're there longer than that and there's not something going on, that's you basically. Be mindful of that. Move on, go somewhere else, make a new hub somewhere. That's just something to be mindful of as all players go, including cops, including like and civilians too. Another thing I want to mention real quick while I'm thinking about it, I know I'm hopping around a lot. So recently there's been an uptick in reports and complaints, very valid ones, around the concept of cops ramming cars during pursuits when it's not warranted. We are aware of this. I know that a lot of people have experienced it. We are very much aware of it from a cop angle and a staff angle. I'm letting you guys know transparently to the entire community. Cops have been spoken to about constant ramming. It is being handled from a LEO standpoint and an LEO position. So, I mean, obviously your characters are going to roleplay the way they're going to react. But from this point forward, just as a player, be mindful that the ramming is stopping, unless you guys are marked as what's called a fleeing felon, which means you guys have shot at cops, you've rammed their cars, and we are trying to get you off the road to bring that chase to a resolution. Then ramming may ramp back up. But ramming as a tactic to end a pursuit, unless those criteria have been met, is stopping. If you guys continue to see it, please open either tickets or please open a complaint form with the LEOs. I know I'll get into complaint forms here in a minute, but I just want to let you guys know that situation is being dealt with. And so you don't necessarily have to keep bringing it up in character. Obviously, if your character was a victim of it and you want that to be a story element, that's understandable. But just remember, there's a player on the other side of that that's already been spoken to about that, as a whole that's being corrected. It doesn't necessarily need to be being brought up all the time. Accidents do happen. Scuff happens. One sync has the bubble. We're all familiar. Yeah, right there. The desync bubble is real. Everyone, cops, crims, civs, EMS, everybody needs to remember the bubble is real and the bubble is deadly. The bubble will things will happen. It's very important to be mindful of, was that a bubble or was that a ramp? Sometimes you can tell, but sometimes it's a little bit trickier. If you're not sure, err on the side of caution and assume it was scuff. It's a lot safer that way, both as cops assuming it for crims and crims assuming it for cops. Otherwise, that can make the cops frustrated. It can make the crims frustrated. It can make everybody frustrated. We don't want that. Just be mindful of that, of yelling at people of like, you can't do this because your SOPs state it. If your character hasn't seen those SOPs, they probably wouldn't know about those SOPs. Remembering that, please. Okay, moving on. Okay. Something that's been brought to our attention a couple of times recently has been an overwhelming force with cops lately. We've had a considerable number of nights lately where there has been a large number of cops on all at once. And there's a reason for this. For those of you who do not know, we have a cadet class that's in the middle of FTO phase right now, and they're doing phenomenal, and they're progressing very, very well. But those cadets need FTOs, which means you're automatically going to have 2 people in the car. On top of that, you're going to have, sometimes you're going to have an FTO shadow, which means you have somebody who's trying to learn to be an FTO in the back of the car. So that means that car went from 1 cop to 3 cops in seconds. As an LEO standpoint, we are working with our cops, myself being LEO command along with Sixie, who's in chat, is also LEO Command. We're working together as well as with our supervisor team to come up with ways to help mitigate that overwhelming force and to be more mindful of our presence on oh, hi Jaybird. on those calls, and making sure that we're mindful of how many cops are responding to different kinds of calls. So we're working on that as well. So obviously there's been some instances where this has happened where it's been a little jarring. We are working on that so that you guys are aware. For transparency's sake, cops are working on that. And there's a couple things that are being implemented have already been implemented to try and make that less of an issue. Also with the cadets, be mindful. We have some cadets that are learning. Be patient to a degree. Don't be. I mean, obviously your characters are going to do what your characters are going to do, but from an out of character perspective, be patient and mindful that these guys are learning. You don't want to scare them off from being cops right at the get go because your character hates cops and they're not going fast enough. And why am I still sitting here? And they're learning. They're taking their time. Be patient. Okay, this is something we bring up at almost every community meeting. Medical and injury RP. We encourage it. We want you guys to practice it. We want you guys to be doing it as often as you can. We want you guys to be like, oh, I fell off my bike. I need medical treatment. Since our last meeting, we have updated a rule of ours. We have a rule that's called the injured party transport rule. Up until our during our last meeting and up until a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago now, really, the rule explicitly stated you cannot transport if you are injured. You need to call for medics. The rule has since been updated and changed that if you are fully downed, if you are fully, like from a gunshot wound or from a car accident or whatever, and you are brought to the ground by your injuries, you cannot self-transport to Pillbox. You cannot have a friend transport you to Pillbox until you've at least called 911. You need to call 911 to see if medics are around, and then if medics are not around or cops aren't around, then you can transport. If you don't get, basically, you'll get a response in text chat that'll say no active units at this time or no dispatchers available. I forget what the exact text is, but it will tell you that they're not available. So then at that point, you're good to transport. Now the rule is if you are injured, but you are not downed, you can bring yourself to Pillbox and give medical RP there, or you can move and call medics. But no matter what, if you need to call medics after a situation like a shootout between gang members and you don't want to get in trouble from the cops or be like downed on scene, you can be moved somewhere else and then call medics. And then you can come up with a creative story as to what happened. Oh, my buddy's gun went off and it hit me in the leg, or I was down in this neck of the woods, a completely different area from where it actually happened. I was down in this neck of the woods and I got shot at by one of the guys because I bumped into his car. You can give the medics any story you want and see if you can talk your way out of it. That's perfectly acceptable. You're not going to incur an immediate loss just because you're down and the medics have to interact with you. We cannot assume, cops or medics cannot and will not assume that, oh, we just had shootings over on Grove Street. This guy's got a GSW. Well, it's got to be the same guy. The only way that will ever happen is if we have evidence from the first scene that'll tie you to it, whether that's a description, whether that's shell casings, whether that's a vehicle description, whatever. That's the only way you're going to get tied back to the other scene. Otherwise, it's up for you to roleplay your way out of it. That's all you got to do. Being mindful, one key thing I want to tack onto that is, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who are not Americans, I don't know this happens in other countries, but in the United States of America, for anyone that has been the victim of a gunshot wound, even if they are not dying, law enforcement is always called to conduct a report that a firearm was involved in this injury. That doesn't mean you're under arrest. It doesn't mean that, okay, same in the UK. There you go. Doesn't mean you're under arrest. It doesn't mean you're going to be detained or anything, but the cops are going to come take a statement. They're going to take a report on what happened. So if you suffer a GSW and you're interacting with medics, they're probably going to call the cops to take a statement. They're not going to call the cops to arrest you. You suffer from a GSW, or in this case, as well, actually, that's right, a stab wound as well. So this goes for GSWs and stab wounds, specific stab wounds, not like a cut. And you take yourself to Pillbox because the medics didn't respond or you didn't get fully downed, then the doctor, the Pillbox medical staff there is also going to call for police to come over and take a statement. If you're dealing with locals, like there's no one at Pillbox, there's no medical on duty, there's no cops on duty, that is a golden opportunity for an evidence ticket. Hey, Joe Schmo was, checked himself into Pillbox at 1:13 in the morning on, Friday, May 6th, and he was suffering from a gunshot wound. Local doctor staff would have called for police to take a statement. The statement would have been this, and you can put it in an evidence ticket. We will pass that on to law enforcement, and then they can go from there. That's like the only kind of like caveat to all of our rules about medical is GSWs and stab wounds will warrant some form of a report or a statement being taken. That's it. Just be mindful of that as players, please. We already talked about that. just kind of as a reminder, being mindful of your of like robbery pacing, of like obviously chain robberies sometimes are going to happen, but making a habit of doing boom, 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 boom all the time feels a little bit weird as cops. It feels like you're just trying to either make money super fast or you're just trying to avoid us by hitting all the CADs. It can also feel kind of weird from a staff perspective. It looks like this person's just grinding as opposed to actually trying to do something, or they're treating it too much like a video game as opposed to a role play environment. So being mindful of how often and fast you're hitting these stores and how quickly you're in and out. Same thing with house robberies as well. It kind of goes the same thing. Just being mindful of those. Okay. I think I've gotten through all of the I'm going to poke you guys with thoughts to think about. Yes. Okay. So, just as a general sort of announcement sort of thing, just so that you guys are aware, staff is constantly working on implementations, fixes, and adjustments to the server, the code, and the environment of the server to make it more fun for players. This includes drug mechanics, this includes criminal mechanics, this includes vehicle handling, weapons metas, all sorts of stuff. So if you see something that feels like it needs work and you're not sure if it's being worked on, it is okay to mention it, but be mindful that staff is probably already on it. It's not saying don't say anything, but just be mindful that hey, I'm not sure if you guys are already aware of this, but I saw this, or I noticed this, or I experienced this, and then staff go, yeah, we're already on it, we've got it, and then cool, that's the end of the discussion. And then we'll continue to move forward with that. As a kind of an example, we're working on a lot of criminal things. We want to give you guys more crime to do, but it takes time. Those are resources that have to be written, they have to be coded, they have to be tested, they have to be implemented, and they have to be balanced before they can actually be live. It takes time to do those things. I'm not going to give any details as to what we're working on right now, because Rigsy is not. Is Rigsy here? No, Rigsy is not here to give me the go-ahead on that, and that is his department. So I'm not going to give you guys any meta or any leaks, because that's his department. But just be aware that don't pick Rigsy. Don't ping Rigsy. He'll come in swinging. But we are working on stuff to allow for more crime to happen. We know that there are a lot of crime mechanics, but some of them are limiting, so we are aware of that. Staff is aware, we're working on it. Same thing with I know that some criminals are wow, I can never down a cop because weapons are where they're at right now. Also being worked on. Cars feeling weird, definitely working on those as well, especially the LEO fleet for all of our cops in here. The LEO fleet is being worked on to be more balanced and be more fun for players to enjoy. Sorry, I'm just making sure I didn't miss any pings anywhere. But yes, those are being worked on. We are working on a lot of code overhauls. So a lot of things that we are mentioning of, this is in the works. We're trying to make sure that, like I said, that things are done and tested before they hit the server. So there's a lot of things that fall into that bracket. Yeah, there's a lot of things soon TM right now. There's a lot of things that are soon TM. We're working on it. We're mindful of it. So just be aware of that. Another cool thing that's happened recently, for those of you who are not aware, as I briefly mentioned earlier, Staff Sergeant David has recently stepped up to help us run the DOJ. He is now considered Chief Justice Chief Justice Cornwall, Nathan Cornwall, taking over for Chief Justice Bruce, and he is basically helping us take on that responsibility. However, part of the request that Staff Sergeant David made when we asked him to help us with this task is he said he would rather have a committee of people to oversee and come up with decisions for DOJ-related aspects rather than him make ultimate decisions himself. So there is now what we call the Legislation Committee. The Legislation Committee is made up of people who are LEOs, who are civs, who are DOJ characters, who are medical characters, all with the intent and purpose of making good decisions on a server-wide basis to further the DOJ, make things more fair, make things more fun across the board, as well as keep DOJ moving. So they are doing things like revisiting some of our criminal code and kind of looking at times and fines. They're looking at implementing new laws and removing old ones. They're looking at how we can work on the court proceedings, all sorts of stuff like that. DOJ Legislation Committee is working on this as a team, and they are... there's crims involved in this. There are people who play crims involved in this. But making sure that they, I was gonna say there are crims involved in this for sure. So they're working on that right now. They're currently working on their very first proposal that they're going to put in front of admins. Admins will then review the proposal and go, yep, this is good, or no, this isn't, and it'll make changes. And then when those are implemented, the way that information is going to be relayed from this committee to the community is no longer going to be through an out-of-character announcement channel that you can just reference at any time, because that feels very out of character. It feels very immersion breaking. and it can feel kind of cringy to be brought up in game, and people are like, ooh, that felt like weird. They're referencing Discord announcements in game. We have an in-character story-based way of implementing or introducing these changes to you guys as the community, and we're very excited about this idea that the legislation committee has come up with. So I can't wait for you guys to see that, but it's going to come in the future when that does happen. Just so that you guys are aware how DOJ stuff will be brought to your guys' attention. If they need another voice, I'd volunteer. Yeah, right now they've got it where we've got the people where we need it, but if we need to bring in more people, we will absolutely start messaging people and bringing them in as needed. So just so you guys are aware of that. So big thank you to that team for volunteering their time and efforts to try and help us further the DOJ and benefit the server as a whole. Along with the DOJ is, as I said before, we are looking for lawyers. If you are interested in playing a lawyer character, please speak to someone within the DOJ or open a ticket with staff. We are expanding the court systems. We are trying to expand the legal system. Trying to basically make... I moved for a bad court thingy. Trying to make the court system more fun and engaging for everyone, as well as fair across the board to the best of our ability. The DOJ, as I said, also is a work in progress. And we also need prosecutors. So if anyone's interested in DA's office, we need DA's office people. We need public defenders. We need, basically, if you are interested in any form of DOJ position, let us know. We'll connect you with the right people, and we'll make it happen because we need more DOJ people. I wrote a note. I don't understand what it means. I love when I do that. Oh, I forgot about this. Okay, so I have two other things real quick that I forgot about. All right, I mentioned complaint forms earlier, and I understand there's a lot of people who've been like, well, I out of character would file a complaint form against the LEOs, against SASP for something that happened, but my character's a criminal, and he or she wouldn't do that, and he or she doesn't want to implicate themselves or incriminate themselves. Completely respectful, completely understandable, and makes sense. If you, as a player, feel that you would file a complaint form about SASP, but your character wouldn't, open a player report ticket. It's not an actual... We're asking you to open that ticket for specific reasons, but articulate that it is a complaint against the SASP that you're not sure how to file in character. Walk us through what happened. Give us the evidence that you would necessarily put on the complaint form, and then staff will work with you to submit the complaint form so that it allows the player to submit it so that LEOs are aware of something that happened, but it's not happening in a way that screws your character over. It's a system that we hope will allow for players to kind of have that check and balance, but it's also not breaking the roleplay encounter for everybody, because that feels weird as the criminal. It's like, well, I have to file a complaint form that's going to incriminate me, but out of character, I'm like, for the health of the server, this feels weird, and I want to say something. Open a ticket with us. We will work with you to articulate that information in a manner that is not game breaking for everybody and still furthers roleplay. Okay, another thing, and this is something you guys can share with your friends that are wanting to apply to the server, because obviously this is a whitelisted meeting. But if you guys have people out there that you're aware of that are wanting to apply to the community and apply to the server, this goes for them as well. This is not tabletop roleplay. A lot of you guys are like me. You guys love your tabletop. You guys are, D&D fans. You guys are like, I play Deadlands in a group, things like that. This is not tabletop. This is a video game-based roleplay environment, which means there are certain things that happen here that don't necessarily work in a tabletop environment, and vice versa. So being mindful of, are you creating a character, whether you're whitelisted and you're making a new character, or you're applying to the server and you're making a character for your application, is this character the best way it was articulated to me the other day was from Marbaka, one of our community support members. He said it's the difference between making a level 20 character and a level 1 character. If you're making a GTA roleplay character, you're making a level 1 character. You're starting at the bottom. You have the come up. You have a backstory. You have canon, but you are starting on the ground floor. Versus a level 20 character, they've played their story. They've made those connections. They've played out everything. They have all the fancy stuff. They have all the fancy equipment. They have all the fancy gear. They're done. Now they just exist in the world that they live in, versus a character that has to build the world that they live in. So both as players making new servers, both as players making new characters on the server, or characters that are on an application for players who want to be here, make a level 1 character, don't make a level 20 character. That's going to be my new buzz phrase for this, and I love it. The way that it was articulated, it's a great way of articulating it. Along with that goes, not in a tabletop environment, you are the hero. You are the focal point of the story. The GM is making you and your party the good guys, the focal point. The story is about you. On a GTA roleplay server, the story is about everybody. The story includes every single person that exists on the server. So you are the hero of your story, but you're also the side character in somebody else's story. You're the background character in somebody else's story. You're the sidekick in somebody else's story. You are involved in somebody else's story just as much as they're involved in yours. Being mindful of the fact that everybody has a story going on at once. Everybody's involved in the same story, and you are not the only character on the server. You are not the only character in the story is something key to remember. I know it sounds kind of like fundamental and like everybody should know this, but it's important to remember that because sometimes you forget. Sometimes people will be like, oh, I'm doing this thing. It's all about me. And sometimes you have those highlight moments, but it's not all the time. You are collaboratively working on a roleplay story with everybody else on the server. So just, remembering that, those of you guys who come from text-based RP and haven't done a lot of video game-based RP, it's very different in a video game environment. You are working collaboratively with everybody. It's a lot of improv. There's no scripting, hence the term OffScript. Okay. All right, real quick to my CM team and my admins. Have I forgotten anything going through the notes and talking points we've discussed this week? Everything? Thanks, Smooth. Appreciate you. Oh, duh, I'm such an idiot. Guys, real quick. I should have led the meeting with this. Shows where my head's at. Real quick, since our last meeting, staff things have changed. I want to give a huge shout out and welcome to our community support team that was not here during the last meeting. So that's going to be King Brexit, Marbaka, Toro. And then from that team, we have two new community managers of Smooth and Mulabi. Huge shout out to them for donating their time and effort and energy to help us boost the server, to help us build a better server. Okay, thank you, Tease. Let me find that note. But huge shout out to those guys for joining the teams and helping us out, as well as we have a couple new devs on our team. William and Galaxy Mom have officially joined our dev team, and they have been a phenomenal help already. They've been amazing. I'm not going to give anything away because if I go any further, I'm going to tell you what they've done, and I'm not doing that because it's not fair. They have legitimately been a huge help to the server and the community in ways you guys have not seen yet. It's been awesome. So huge shout out to all the new staff members. Thank you very much for donating your time and effort and energy here. Okay, now I'm being pinged about things I forgot. Where is it? Here it is. I'm sorry. Yes. Creative 911 calls for cadets and EMS. You don't always need to rob a store. You don't always need to do anything. I did actually go over that one, Tease. But I can go over it again if you'd like. But encouraging creative 911 calls. What I mean by that is you don't have to be using a mechanic to do a crime or to get injured or to have some sort of an interaction with state services. You don't need to trigger a CAT alert for that to happen. You can come up with anything. You can tag a wall and and call yourself in. You can steal hubcaps off of cars. You get creative. It is totally okay to get creative and call in a 911 call on yourself. And if you're not sure how to do that, it is /911 with an A after it. So it's going to look like this. It's going to look like that in your text prompt, and then space, and then whatever you put. When you do that, it will ping cops and medical personnel of where you're at, but it will not say your name or contact phone number or anything. It's going to say anonymous caller, and then you in brackets can put a local pedestrian or a local motorist or a security camera or whatever. It is okay to do that. It is encouraged to do that. We highly encourage you guys to do that because you guys can come up with any sort of crime you can think of that it doesn't exist as a mechanic and call yourself in and get that interaction. That is absolutely encouraged. It's absolutely okay. If you have any questions on that, please ask in either the chat or the community meeting questions, and the other staff members can chime in as well. But we love seeing creative calls. It's great. It's such a refreshing moment when you're just been like, oh, 1090, 1090, 1090 to this pedestrian goes, hey, there's this young woman down here stuffing a chicken into a duffel bag, and she has a knife, and I don't know what's happening. And the cops are like, that's a weird call. And they go to that call, and they get this really crazy interaction with this redheaded chick running around with a switchblade who's stuffing chickens into bags. So, it's those great little moments that make everybody smile and laugh. It also paces things a lot better, too. I feel called put. You are called put. You are called put. I called put. Okay, cool. So I'm just as a quick recap because Tease did ping me, so I'm gonna do my due diligence. Please make sure you guys are respecting medical roleplay. You don't necessarily need to go into like hours of medical roleplay with EMS or PBMC, but if you're injured, you're downed, please don't have it be I have a scrape and you're back up. Please don't be, something, oh, I got shot in the shoulder again and I'm back up. Respectful of it, respectful of the medic's time and the fact that that's their roleplay, right? Like I know a lot of people don't like medical roleplay, but think about it. If you were a character and you were doing something and your entire world of roleplay focused around this one thing, and you got the opportunity to interact with somebody in your thing, and they shrug you off like I'm done, and they move, and and you had like 30 seconds of interaction. That's all the roleplay they get. Be respectful of the fact that that's their roleplay. That's all they've got. They will go hours with, they'll sometimes go 2 to 4 hours with no calls. That means they've been sitting still for 2 to 4 hours with almost no roleplay. Like at all. And whereas cops are getting a lot of pings and criminals are like dealing with each other and selling stuff, just be mindful of that. Like if you are just walking yourself into pillbox all the time, like obviously once in a while in certain circumstances it makes sense and it's okay. But if you are every single time walking yourself into pillbox because I'm at half health, I'm just gonna go get full health at pillbox, and you perceive it that way, and EMS watches you do this, you are completely bypassing their roleplay. They can't do anything because they are there for emergency medical services to go out to the scene where you're at, stabilize you, and bring you back to the hospital, and then they hand you off to the PBMC staff, and then they take over, and that's their roleplay. So if you're completely bypassing their roleplay by treating yourself and not doing anything about it, or walking yourself into pillbox without honoring your injuries even slightly, just because you need to get your health back up, you're completely bypassing an entire group of role players that are just begging for roleplay. They just want to roleplay. They're not snitches. They are not pseudo cops. They will not call you in just because, oh, this guy is in a stolen car and he's looking for medical treatment. Nope, that's not their job. Their job is to administer medical treatment and keep you from dying. That is their job. And they know this and they roleplay that way. So again, be mindful of the fact that these are not cops in medical uniforms. These are medics. On the flip side of that, cops, all you LEO out there, you are not medics. You are not EMS. You are not. The most you can do is you can plug a finger into a bullet wound and keep it from bleeding out. That's what you can do. You guys are there to arrest people. If you guys want to basically just pack wounds and help EMS, that's good, whatever. But you guys are not. Yeah, exactly. The C collar. You put the C collar on the person, take him to pillbox, or you C collar on the person and take him to an EMS person. We are not pseudo medics. We are there to be cops. We are looking into the idea of EMS command and LEO command collaborating and getting some sort of like first aid triage sort of thing of like mixed into our academy, where you can get like sort of medically certified more or less to like do more than just plug a wound. But that's it. Like we are not there to do all this crazy medical RP as a cop. Even if you have medical experience on your character or in your IRL like experience, please respect medics and PBMC. That is their role play. We are there to put handcuffs on people and transport to the station. If you have any questions on that from an EMS standpoint, ask your EMS command. LEOs, if you have any questions, ask your LEO command. Things like that. What up, Briggsy? Briggsy, if you want, we've kind of wrapped up most of the talking points, but I held off on anything regarding code or development work. Do you have anything that you want to bring up, say, or talk about, anything like that? If you want to, just pop into voice real quick. Hey, there you are.
Hey.
Hello.
What's up, guys? Hello. So for the most part, a lot of the stuff that we've been like, I know that we haven't been really that transparent on our end as to what we're working on. Obviously with the patches that we're releasing right now, it's just a lot of balancing fixes, and things like that. That's because we're working on we're like pretty much the entire dev team has kind of been, besides working on the balancing, the bug fixing and things like that, we're working on like a much larger patch as it goes right now. And that is pretty much a complete overhaul of the framework as it sits right now. Most of the mechanics won't be changing. There'll be modifications to them, but there will be new mechanics added. A lot of quality of life stuff will be coming as well. Just to give a couple things, because I know that there was stuff that I added that I was like, oh, this is going to be so sick. Police will be able to raid apartments without having to have the person enter the apartment and then you guys enter after. You guys will just be able to go up to the doors and raid them. You guys will have like rifle racks on your cars, so you won't be having to keep your AR and shotgun in the trunk. There will be a specific rifle rack. The dispatch and the MDT are completely getting rewritten. EMS is getting their own MDT. So you guys will have like a MDT for like who's in ICU, for ice contacts, all of that stuff. And we're doing a bunch of modifications to things like the HUD because we know that there are some community members that might be colorblind that can't see like food, water, things like that. So the HUD will actually be completely customizable to everybody, to how everybody wants it to look. So you'll be able to change it to however you want it to look instead of how it's set up. So like if you want, for example, if you want the little icons to be squares instead of circles, or stars instead of circles, or triangles instead of circles, then you can do that. You can also change the colors, the size, the spacing, everything like that as well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we're working on. It's a really big patch. So that's why pretty much all of the patch notes that you've been seeing from us have been like more balancing and bug fixes instead of like major content, because all of the major content is just going to be batched into this one big thing instead of us like spacing it out, because a lot of it required me and the rest of the team to overhaul the entire framework to get all of these new things that we're adding in the first place. So we're still working on it, but it should be coming. I'm not going to give you guys an ETA honestly, but it soon TM.
Yeah,
I don't like giving ETAs. Yeah, we're not paid devs, so I can't give you an ETA and then have people crunching and working for it.
Yep. ETAs will happen when it's like ETA server restart 10 minutes. That'll be your ETA essentially. Cool. Thank you, Riggsy. I appreciate that. I didn't want to drop any code stuff without your say so I appreciate you hopping in and passing that along. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's happening in the background, as I said earlier, which is that it's taking time, but like I said, or with 2 new devs coming on board, it's been a huge help. So like you guys have been saying, huge shout out to the dev team as an entirety. Okay, so we've kind of reached the point now where we've gone through our talking points. We've talked about new stuff that's coming, more or less, obviously given a very vague overview. But now we're going to get into the questions. We have a question submission form that if you guys have not already seen, we announced it, I think, last week for you guys to submit questions in advance where you could choose to keep your name anonymous or not. I'm going to go ahead and read through those. We only got a few right now. If you guys have any like last-minute questions, please use the community meeting questions channel. If your question has already been answered, it would have been responded to in that chat. If you have more questions, please feel free to drop them in there, and I'll get to them. The first one we have here is from Tyro. And it's topic of staff appreciation. He says, on behalf of, I'm pretty sure all of us, you're awesome. Sorry to interrupt, back to the actual questions. P.S. Yes, I will be doing this every community meeting. Thank you, Tyrope. It is much appreciated. Seriously, you guys are awesome, and I appreciate the appreciation. The entire team does. Next question is from someone who wishes to remain anonymous, and it is the topic of PD quality of life. And they are talking about let's see, AFK timer comes so quick. Can we extend the timer or be able to able to input a code to reset the timer? It is awkward to talk to a suspect or be sitting having to move around randomly to reset the timer. Are there any plans to update PD uniforms? Separate question. Are there any plans to update PD uniforms, give uniformed officers a little variety, like black pants and top with blue stripes instead of the blue on yellow? Okay, 2-part question, so 2-part answer. First question gets first answer. That's a Riggsy question, actually. AFK timers and like ways to reset them? I don't know that actually one. All I know right now is you have to move around.
Yeah, we can extend it. Yeah, all you have to do is move around. I obviously, like, as a dev, I have permissions on the server that most people don't have, so I don't have an AFK timer when I'm on there, so I don't really see it, how frequently it pops up. So yeah, if there's like quickness with the AFK timer and stuff, just let us know, because admins and like me on the server, we don't see AFK timers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but yeah, I should be able to extend it. It's not a big deal. I think it's just changing one number.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Really easy.
And then Ren put up a good one as well. You don't necessarily have to move. You can just change your emote. So you can move, change your emote. Sometimes just even talking will sometimes do it. It depends. But yeah, we can look into that. Second question gets second answer. Are there any plans to update? Okay, so PD uniforms are not getting updated. They are staying as they are. There is a lot of variety that is allowed within inside of our uniforms as far as vests, as far as you have multiple shirts. For certain ranks, you have cargo pants, and you've got like we just implemented. We're working on implementing a new dress code policy for Fridays. So there is a lot of variation that already exists within inside of our uniform, and recoloring all of the uniforms is a lot bigger process than some of you guys might realize. It is not quick. It is not easy. It's not cheap. That's not to say that it won't happen in the future. If you are out there in the community and you are very good with clothing textures and editing clothing textures, and you would like to, help the community with that, and you just haven't spoken up before, and you just happen to have this really, this hidden skill, please feel free to fill out one of our developer apps that are in the announcements. I think the announcements or documents channel, and we can have a discussion with you about that position. We do already have RAM kind of handles most of our clothing as far as bringing elements in and organizing them. But when it comes to textures, that's mostly kind of a collaborative effort. So if you've got some ideas with that, or you know how to do that, and something that you would like to donate your time to help, please open one of those apps and we'll have a conversation with you. Let's see. The next one they've asked to also remain anonymous. This topic is civilian jobs. Is there any word on possible update or buff to payouts for some or most of the civ jobs? Example, a garbage run takes you just around the corner from the depot to Davis will pay almost 10 times the amount of a taxi driver would get from a call that takes you to LSIA and back up halfway around the map. I'll answer this if Riggsy wants to chime in as well. He can. As of right now, as he said before, a lot of the bigger changes, which this would encompass that, are coming in that big patch that he's talking about, where we're overhauling the server framework. So it is definitely always on our radar. Basically, payouts in general, whether it's civilian, criminal, whatever, they're always on our radar. We are always trying to keep apprised to the payouts of all jobs so that they are as fair as we can make it. Because obviously, civ jobs should not pay as well as crime. Because the idea is that crime pays more because it's a higher risk versus higher reward. And it's supposed to be a quote-unquote encouragement for civilians to turn to a life of crime to make more money. If civ jobs pay more than crime, then criminals are never going to do crime. They're just going to do civ jobs. So there is a very delicate balance there. But that being said, payouts in general are always going to be a thing on our radar, and it's probably going to be something that'll happen in future unless Riggsy has a different comment around civ job payouts like taxi and garbage.
No, you pretty much nailed it.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, there's that. Next one. This is from Tyrope again. YouTube presence. Next clip compilation video when? If William is too busy with other things, we could perchance ask other community members to assist, myself included. William now is being a dev, is spending a lot of his time deving for the server. So yeah, unfortunately our YouTube presence has taken a bit of a hit. Our clip compilation videos we wanted to have like every other week or every month, I've obviously taken a back seat. We are always down for clip compilation videos. Actually, right now we are recording this meeting. It's going to go on the YouTube channel when it's all done. I have actually made a cool scene for it, so it looks a little more visually appealing when you're watching the playback. But yes, if you would like to assist with the YouTube channel regarding clip compilations and what like that, we have some criteria we adhere to. We have some rules, and obviously there's a certain level of trust that comes with that help. But if you'd like to, open a ticket with staff, and we will talk to you about it, because we were always looking for more help on the staff team, and that would definitely include that. Next one, this is from Thoffer, and he's discussing radios. Will civilians and criminals have access to radios in the future? As I see, it would help organize various activities that both groups of people would take part in.
No.
Yep, I was gonna let Riggsy handle it. The answer, and it will always be a large, resounding no. And I will tell you why. The reason we do not want criminals or civilians having ready access to radios, because technically you can steal them. You can get them from a cop or a medic. You can steal them from people. They absolutely can. But obviously, you're only going to have people that have stolen them. The reason criminals will never have access to these is because we do not want... you have phones. You have a cell phone. Like, how many of you, again, we're going to go back to the show of hands like I did earlier with the hospital. How many with a show of hands walk around with a radio attached to your hip? IRL, these days. How many of you guys carry a radio attached to your hip when you guys are driving around, going to work? Okay, not at work. I'm not talking about at work. I'm talking about IRL, like normal. Yeah, okay, a pager. Pager's basically a text message. Like, if you were just out doing your thing, very few people use actual radios to communicate with each other. A radio app, okay, but again, on your phone. So my point is it feels very weird. It feels very video gamey for everyone to have these radios where they can communicate at all times, anywhere, as opposed to giving phone calls or sending text messages. Yeah, do you guys not have phones? Exactly. The other aspect of this is when criminals are using radios, it turns into CSGO and GTA of he's lit, he's down, he's over there, he's over there, he's over there. And it becomes very just like, okay, this is not a video game. This is a role-play environment. Also, there is a certain level of tension that comes from a criminal situation where you don't have direct communication with your homies right in that moment. There's like, is he over there? Is he over there? Where is he at? Where's he at? I lost eyes on my boy. Where's he at? Or, you know, whatever. There's a certain level of confusion and role play story that can come from that versus where am I? Oh, I'm behind the tree to your left. Oh, okay, cool. And then you're back to what you're doing. So there is a legit reason as to why they don't exist and why they will never exist. So just so you guys are aware, and you guys are free to bring this question up as long as you want, but it will continue to be the same answer. Okay, this player has asked their name be kept private. And just a general culture question. What has been your favorite thing that you have seen from the community since launch? How can we continue to... Whoa. Was not expecting this sort of question. Okay, hold on. What has been your favorite thing that you've seen from the community since launch? How can we continue to show up as a community? Okay, for this, I want... I know that other admins and whatnot are busy. I want the other admins to pop in here and CMs to pop in here. If they would, because I want each of you guys to answer this, because this is a really good question that I like the vibe. I'm here for these kind of questions. Okay, so I'm gonna read this again, and then staff members, as you want, you can go ahead and answer this. The question was, what has been your favorite thing you've seen from the community since launch, and how can we continue to show up as a community? I will answer last on this, so whoever wants to answer first from that. That's in here. Go for it. Okay, there's 3 of you in here.
Okay. So
yeah,
it's kind of it's kind of what? I'm sorry, what?
Oh, sorry, T's asked someone drag her because she's on mobile. I just need to figure out how to drag her.
Okay. So I know it's more of a based on the question's more based on what the community has. I'll say what my biggest thing that I've liked so far about the server as a whole, and part of the reason why I decided that I wanted to help out with the staff side of things, and I've said this to you, Neon and Tees, in the past. It has to do with how much the actual the admins themselves have been with listening and pushing things to players. I've been part of a lot of communities and been admins in other communities where that didn't happen. Where you had a lot of what the admins have been doing with the admin mechanical characters more than anything, has been a huge thing. And it's been a lot for a lot of criminal groups and other groups on the server. Getting that role play through those means, as it actually being a role play thing, not just something to walk up to and interact with and get guns, buy guns from a store, things like that. Like different ways to get a hold of criminal items and things like that. That is actually story based. That's the biggest thing to me. I mean, it's just the stories that people are telling and the admins themselves actually providing for those stories. That's my biggest thing that I've been dealing with.
For me, I actually opened a ticket about this the other day. One of the best things that I've seen on here from the community, and it was like my crowning I am so happy right now moment, was seeing the conflict that's going on between ballas and families, and just how willing the gang players, all of you, have been to engage in conflict, pace it out. I've watched some VODs of the conflict going on and just how beautifully well paced it is, and no one's going right for the headshot, no one's going for the GTA Online strats, no one's taking the meta, no one's getting out of character salty. At the end of the day, you both take your L's, you both take your W's, you lick your wounds, you sit out, you go to jail, you're in ICU, and in a couple of weeks, it kicks off again. And this is something that I've personally wanted since the server's start. Like, to me, the criminal side, as far as gang presence, especially the lore gangs, was really important, that it just hits a certain vibe that feels fun, respectful, but also realistic and dangerous and threatening. I don't want there to be people just hanging out on the cul-de-sac doing nothing, and it just turns into, well, we're civs, but we're repping colors. That is my nightmare. So seeing that without any of us having to do anything, that players are just taking it up upon themselves to do this and pace out conflict, be willing to have conflict, and we don't have player reports and we don't have issues. And at the end of the day, people are giving shout outs. People are saying how great it was and how they love the action, and they're like sharing all of these great interactions. That warms my heart on a level I can't even properly describe. So I want to encourage this from our players. If you are in conflict, make sure, like, if it hits a note out of character, take a step back. Sometimes it's overwhelming, especially when you're new to it. But always reach out to players, DM them, just say, hey, that was fun and I enjoyed it. Because sometimes that small check-in means so much. So I want to thank everyone in those groups for how awesome you are.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
For me, it's just like, even though we give you guys these reminders and these pokes and everything like that, it's not like, most of the time all of you are doing like already what like the vision of the server is and like what the culture that we're building is, and everybody's just so great about joining events that are happening or talking to people that they normally wouldn't talk to, and like just creating that role play and making the server feel welcoming. And then when we're getting new players in, it's just helping that, like, them feel welcome, them feel like they have a place to be here, and that we're not already like super cliquey. And I've been on servers where that's been a problem, and like you can be welcomed in and you can find a place here. So I just really enjoy that.
Let's see, Cha-Cha, what about you?
For me, it's honestly like just watching the not even the characters, but the players grow and become more comfortable with things. Like, there are a lot of people that I have, I guess I am a bird, that I have watched basically just flourish here and realize, like, hey, I'm so much more than a background character for someone else, you know, and that's it. It brings me so much joy, and I get just very like giddy and excited about it, and it just makes me all happy.
I got one more thing, Neon, before because mine was more centered on like what admins and staff are doing. I thought of something as well that's more community based. We all know my main character is obviously Lynch, the PD. So I'm on him more often than I am Ethan, my criminal. I see this a lot, and it's really it's really great for specifically cadets or other officers that are struggling with driving on especially our PD fleet's a little behind the curve from what we've all talked about and everybody knows. The criminals that are in, like, when we have chases and have things that are going on that aren't just, you know, going for that W and actually letting the cops have some fun as well. That's a huge thing. It's big for a cadet's confidence. It's big for an officer's confidence who aren't the best drivers, which does happen. I mean, it's great for everyone on that side, and we've been seeing it a lot lately. Actually, pretty much since launch, from what I've seen. You know, actually, and having a chase, setting that in head timer, allowing them to recatch you, things like that, as opposed to you know, as opposed to just taking 3 left turns and then stopping in an alleyway. That's, you know, it's a huge thing from a cop point of view, and it's been great.
Riggs, you're the last one so far, because Mulabi's not here.
Favorite thing that I've seen from the community, that's the question, right?
Basically, what has been your favorite thing that you've seen from the community since launch, and how can we continue to show up as a community? Was the question posed to us?
that you guys don't DM me asking me to fix things. Honestly, I've been doing this for a few communities. One of the big things that happened in a lot was a lot of people would like DM me and just be like, "Oh my god, how have you not fixed this yet?" I think that's only happened like maybe 1 time, 2 times since launch. So yeah, keep that going, please. Don't fucking DM me asking me to fix things, because it's just when you do that, am less and less motivated to actually fix it.
There you go. Also, King Brexit, a part of our CS team, he had an answer for this as well. He said, my answer is how gangs are willing to RP with the police is the best thing. My interaction with the Bala is in a tense situation where it could have gone in 2 different ways. I mean, that ties right into what Tease was talking about with the gangs, is how you have these criminal characters that instead of just being like, yo, fuck you, and then going quiet, they are legitimately, there's still role play there. There's still banter back and forth with the cops and with the cop players, as opposed to just completely shutting it down and being like, yo, just send me up. There's, even though it's showing that the character doesn't like the cops, but they're still role playing. It's great. We love seeing that. My answer about what has been my favorite thing to see from the community since launch, and how can we, honestly, my favorite thing is seeing people that I've known throughout roleplay for years who have told me or articulated, and I've read in more than one instance of, I'm done with roleplay. I can't stand GTA roleplay anymore. For, you know, listing their plethora of reasons for why they're done, coming here and not only trying it out again, but actually enjoying it to the point where I'm seeing RP shoutouts of, quote, I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning for the because roleplay was so good and because I'm having so much fun and I don't want to log off the server. And seeing people do that who were like, I am so hurt by roleplay, I am so done with roleplay, you know, ... and seeing them not only just enjoying themselves, but to the point where they are like actually invested again, they're addicted again. Obviously, we don't want people to get addicted, but people like who are actually just invested in enjoying itself and enjoying themselves and having so much fun that they can't log off the server because they don't want to. That is all I need, like, to keep going, because I've been there myself multiple times, and to see people that I have a genuine like obviously I have friends in this community that have kind of come over here from other communities that we've been a part of, but seeing those people and other people that I don't know that went through the same thing come here and say that like they found their new home, they can have fun again, they feel safe to roleplay again, you know, whatever this case may be, from whatever server they came from, that to me is incredible. So as far as how can we continue to show up as a community, keep that vibe going so that others feel it when they come here. We are not that server that's going to explode overnight. We are not that server that's going to go from 1 to 1,000 players in a week. But little by little, people are trickling in and joining the community and discovering their love of roleplay again. And it's because not only because of what we're trying to do as staff, but from what you guys as players are doing as a community to build an environment where others are like, because I mean, the thing is, staff can only do so much, right? Like we're a small team. We're not on all the time. We don't play all the characters. 90% of that is on you guys as the players of helping foster that environment of welcoming to new people, including them in stories, showing them that we are a story first, that we're not about, you know, just we're not about any of the negative things you see from any other server or from any other environment or from wherever you came from, that we are trying to be something different and better. And that's literally you guys doing that just as much as it is staff. So that's my answer for that.
Can I piggyback on that
Yeah.
really quick? Because that point was so good that, yeah, it's also been an absolute joy to see players who I've played with at multiple other communities and have struggled. Either they just didn't connect or there was other things going on, and they come here and they're flourishing and they are now a core members of our community, and they have multiple characters, or they're super invested in these really awesome stories that they're coming up with, and they're helping to push others into roleplay and basically being the positive change that they wanted to see. And I was not expecting anything, but seeing that, it's just amazing.
Yeah, if you guys know anything about most of our staff team and like in our past, this was not only a big undertaking for us, it was a scary undertaking, and it's not been an easy road by any stretch of the imagination. So the fact that you guys are making it to the point where we want to keep going is huge. So please keep that up. But that being said, Marbaka, did you have any points as well? I know you're kind of in and out because you're doing other things. If you've got something, throw it in one of the chats and I'll read it out. I saw that Brexit added on. His favorite thing has come from this server is how good the community you guys are. You guys make being staff so much fun. As staff, I love to get on and play my character, and y'all make every day I get on a joy. Seeing each character grow and flourish is great. So yeah, I mean, echoing that sentiment 100%. All right, so Smooth and T's covered you. Got it. All right, cool. All right, so we do have some questions that were dropped into the community meeting questions channel. I'm going to go ahead and go through these. It looks like a few of them have been answered. So I'm not going to, let's see, I believe that's been answered. That's been answered. Okay, cool. So we actually only have like a couple here. So Tyrup says, Neon mentioned clothing textures for PD. How open are you to vehicle textures? I'm specifically thinking some alternatives for EMS to have a different number on the roof. Even if it's just 2 options, it means Medic 1 and Medic 2 connect distinct vehicles. So that exact thing that you're talking about is possible, but it requires custom modifications to the model of the vehicle and the texture itself, which we do not have the skill for. I have a friend of mine that can do it, but it costs money, and they are extremely busy all the time. I would like to have that be a thing for not only EMS, but also cops in the future. But it's a thing that it will... It might be a long time coming. That's a fluff thing that might happen way down the line. Group phone calls, I do not believe that's possible because of the way VoIP works. I mean, unless somebody in the staff team has a counterpoint to that, I don't believe that enabling group phone calls is feasible.
I haven't figured out any way.
Okay.
There's probably a way, but I haven't figured it out.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Bucky asks, what are plans for advertisement and recruiting new members to the community besides word of mouth? We do have an active Twitter account. Actually, Mulabi has been wonderful help of keeping that Twitter account active and moving. It's been great. We post somewhat regularly, as well as the YouTube channel, which we post our community meetings and we post clip compilations. And then obviously we word of mouth is a thing. Beyond that, we don't have like a recruitment strategy in the sense of like we're not paying for any form of advertisement or social posts. We don't have our community currently listed on like the CFX forum of like, hey, come join our community. I'm not opposed to looking into some of these tactics. I'll just say this. We try very hard to look for quality players. We want people here who are not necessarily like long-term role players who like are masters at it, but more people who have the right vibe, who are going to help build the community up, whether they're learning to role play or they've been role playing for years. We want players here that are going to help foster that same environment and keep it moving forward. So we want to be very careful with like who's joining the community and how they're joining the community. But oh, that's right, it is really big on TikTok. I didn't think about that. We could you know what? That's a good point. It is really big on TikTok. We could absolutely look into that.
I'm way too boomer for TikTok.
I am too, but I think that's... Yeah, I don't either.
I could probably help you figure it out.
Yeah, if you know what, we'll look into an OSRP TikTok account, but on the grounds that every person here has to follow the channel, so that we don't start with one person.
Recruiting Zoomers to help with TikTok plus,
yeah, exactly, yeah. So there you go. But yeah, so I mean, we don't have a TikTok, but we can look into it. But yeah, we're always looking into new ideas of how to promote the community, but at the same time, we are not trying to get anyone that's a role player here. Like, we are trying to get quality players here who are going to help keep the right mentality and vibe of the community intact, and not be, the weed the weed among the flowers sort of thing. If that makes sense. That's not like a no, we're not going to do it. It's just more of a like, we're very careful with protecting the community and making, like, we said it before, we'll say it again. Your guys' protection, comfort, and safety as a community, so that you guys feel comfortable not only in the Discord but on the server playing, is our like number one priority as a team. We want to make sure that you guys don't hesitate logging on, or are scared to log on, or scared to be in the Discord, or anything like that, or that you have to worry about being on the server and your roleplay getting sidelined by somebody, or getting broadsided or anything like that. So as an entirety, that's something we're very mindful of when it comes to apps and things like that. So that's just to give you guys a clarity on our like mentality of like when it comes to bringing people in the community. That is where we're at as like a team and an app reviewer team. Okay. Well, I saw some people typing in the questions channel, but they stopped typing, so I don't know if they have more questions because I'm down. We're a little bit ahead of schedule. We usually go for about 2 hours. We're at 1:40 right now. If anyone has any more questions, now's the time to ask them. But I see some ideas being kicked around in our staff chat regarding shorts. We can absolutely look into those sort of things. Well, I'm totally down to look into other alternatives for advertisement, 100%, especially things like that are not super like staff what's the word? Like it doesn't take up a whole lot of staff time because we have like 1,000 other things we have to do. More clothes options overall. Okay, Lix, just to give a frame of reference, our server has like 5 times the amount of custom clothes than almost any other server I've seen, to the point where we're like, I think we have like 5 gigs of extra, just clothes. Just add-on clothes are like 5 gigs of data alone, and like and that's a lot.
To talk on it as well, like when we add new clothes, it shuffles up all of the existing clothes. So we can't really add them on the fly because like if you have saved outfits, everything would get screwed up. But there is more clothes coming in that big patch that I told you about.
Yep. So adding more is tricky, but we can sometimes change things or add textures. So like, for example, if you really like a coat, but you want a different color of it, that's easier for us to add versus adding a whole new coat. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen. It just means that, that's the system there. Bucky says, I have suggestions, not really questions. Gotcha. Okay. I mean, depending on what your suggestions are, please feel free to open a ticket with us with discussion. We're always down for input. Just understand that just because you open a ticket with us doesn't mean we will be able to or can or choose to implement it or go with it. But like, we understand that we can't see all the angles. We can only see what we can see. So if you have something else that you're thinking that you think would be beneficial to the community, please feel free to bring that to staff so we can have a discussion. Just be mindful of the fact that it may take us some time to get back to the ticket. Well, no. Next patch, no. Okay, hold on. Before rumors spread, the next patch is not going to ruin clothing. We are not changing clothing. We will give you guys ample opportunity to be aware that clothing is going to change, and when that happens, we will give you guys time to get your numbers or like screenshots or whatever you wanted, because the numbers are going to change, like screenshots and stuff of different outfits so you can rebuild them. No, you're okay. I just wanted to make sure there was no confusion that the big patch is not coming right away, and no patch is coming soon that will break outfits. But when it happens, they will break.
Also, just on that, there are we are removing things too in this big clothing patch. So like, if you are wearing something and you're not finding it, it's just because we removed it. It might be because of texture. It might be because it looks weird from a distance. We found a better polyed item or a better quality item. So just be aware that not everything that you are currently wearing may be in that patch.
Yeah, we don't want to remove a bunch, but there are some items that, for example, that at a distance disappear. Like, for example, there is a specific hairstyle that I'm not going to mention because then people won't be able to notice it. They won't unsee it. There is a specific hairstyle that is used by some of the characters on the server that at a medium distance disappears and the player looks bald. As an example, there are things like that. So, yeah, if you know, you know, exactly. So those sorts of things are going to be removed versus just because we don't like it. Let's see. Triggs asks, general community question. I know some people want to expand their character profile. I'm just curious if the idea for voice acting lessons or small sign-up events has ever been brought forward. If not, what are the thoughts on this idea? Hosted by staff, you mean? Voice acting lessons from us? Because I mean, I am not a professional voice actor. I cannot give those lessons personally, if that's the question. But if you're talking about an RP workshop that's staff run, that actually has been brought to our attention at least 2 other times, on multiple occasions, about staff helping kind of pass on some of their experience and wisdom regarding roleplay and techniques that they've learned and experienced throughout the years, and trying to kind of share that with newer players or players who are struggling in various areas. And that it has been discussed. It's just never been, unfortunately, it's not been the highest priority. Yeah, or people who have several different voice characters, maybe offer tips, kind of like a workshop. If you sound like a Vago or something, try this. And yeah. Like I said, we've discussed we've discussed these sorts of things, and we've always been supportive of it. It's just having the time to do it mixed with the staffing to do it. But yeah, no, I'm absolutely down to consider like RP workshops for folks. I do know we have a professional voice actor in the community, but I'm not going to call them out, and I'm not going to like ask them to do that. But if they hear this and like go, hey, I'd be down to help facilitate that, great. I'm not going to call them out. Nope, not going to do it.
It is I. Oh wait, no, it's not.
Well, no, and it's not me either, Dub. I am a graphic designer. I make things look pretty. I do not do voice acting. But yes. Any other last minute questions? Like I said, we're about 15 minutes ahead of schedule, so we can still slip some stuff in here if you guys have some more questions you guys want to ask. Or I'll go ahead and say this, since we've got some time and we got most of the staff here. I will hesitantly open up if you guys have general community health suggestions. I'm going to say with big italicized letters here. This is not an opportunity to say, give me things or put these things in because I say so. But if you're like, hey, from a community health standpoint, I have this idea, I'll go ahead and let you guys throw that in the community meeting questions channel beneath T's most recent comment, and we can discuss those real quick and kind of talk through staff position on some of these things. Actually, yes, I have, believe it or not, Ray. But yes, if you guys would like to offer some suggestions or whatnot in there, again, please keep in mind these need to be suggestions of like for community health or community or like to better the server, or hey, this is something I saw elsewhere that went really, really well, and here's why. It's not going to be, can you give me a car, or can you change the handling on this one car because I don't like it. Those sort of suggestions we're probably just going to delete out of the channel. Yeah, or like what Galaxy said, put these in because I say so. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Yeah, I know you joke. You're fine. That dog that Carrington just posted, like, looks terrified, and I'm scared for this dog and whatever they're seeing in front of them. It kind of has me concerned. That counts as a win button for sure. Yeah, like I said, we've got about 12 more minutes or so until I want to call it. So if you guys have any things you want to drop in last minute, also if there's any other staff things that like last minute things anyone here in staff has thought about that they'd like to chat about, I'll also open this up to our CS team. If there's anyone in CS or devs, if there's anyone on this entire staff team that has like things that have popped into their head that's not been discussed during this meeting, we've got about, like I say, about 12 minutes. So I want to cut this off. I'll open this up for you guys to chat about it if you guys would like.
I have a thing since you mentioned it as far as suggestions.
Go for it.
We've kind of opened it before in threads with the community, but I think it's safe to say, and Rigsy can absolutely correct me, but we're always soliciting basically suggestions for things that any of the players might think would make a cool criminal mechanic or something for interaction. We may not always implement everything, and it's sort of like someone could bring an idea to us, and then we have to go through a whole, how does this work for economy? How does it work for LEO? How does it work for being fun? But there's so many things that the community has brought to us, whether in tickets or threads or DMs, where either we didn't consider it and it's like, oh, that could be a really cool idea for the future or something to look into and something we want to consider. So if you have any ideas of even like small crimes, some things that are petty, just things to do that are interactive, like the shoplifting, what very much came from a community discussion in the thread of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could just do more things around store robberies? And the devs were awesome and were able to find a way to implement it. So if you have any ideas, definitely toss them in a ticket is what my recommendation would be. And then we can, as staff, vet, hey, how could we make this work? And maybe this would be a good idea, or just have a bigger discussion of what it looks like.
I'll also tack onto that and say it doesn't have to be a criminal mechanic. This could be an idea for a civ job. This could be an idea for something along those lines. Please feel free to those suggestions are also welcome, basically is what I'm trying to say. Actually, Marbaka does bring something up in one of our staff chats. tickets are great. We love you guys opening tickets with us because it allows for communication between us and you in a more direct and candid fashion. So please, if you have something, please bring it into a ticket if you want. The caveat to that, though, is if any of you guys here in the community have like long-standing, outstanding tickets that either haven't been poked, aren't needed anymore, or just generally it's just not needed. Please go ahead and close those. If you guys do need them repoked, and there's just like things that, like it's an evidence ticket or a court ticket or an idea ticket, and there's just not been movement on it, and it's maybe gone overlooked, please feel free right now or any point during the weekend to go ahead and poke those tickets and just bring them back to our attention, and then we can make sure they get moving. But if you guys ever have tickets that are like long standing and just kind of sitting there, please make sure you close those. It helps us out. We can only have a finite number of tickets open at any one time, and we've implemented some things to help facilitate more tickets being open, but ultimately we do have a finite cap. Rigsy Horse is already in. 30 per, Rico's correct, 30 per Discord section. But yeah, if any of the other staff members, like I said, any of the CS team or dev team or anybody would like to hop in voice chat and relay any sort of things that they feel like they want to talk about real quick, we've got about 9 minutes left. If you guys have any questions or suggestions you guys would like to, please drop in the community questions chat. That's also fine. Otherwise, we'll start winding down here pretty quick. Pick you. You need to request to talk, Brexit, so I can add you. You have to, I think it's, hold on, I can invite to speak. Yeah, here we go. Hold on, where is it? Yeah, there we go. Invite to speak. And then, yeah, so there you go.
You hear me?
Yes, but you sound distant and in a tin can.
What about now?
There we go. That's better.
I love community events. And I think we've had 2 now, correct?
At least 2, yeah.
Yeah. If you've got any ideas for like a community event, please open a ticket and let us know. I like them. I believe Mew likes them. I think all the staff team love doing them. Yes, just if you get any ideas, just open a ticket. We love events. That's literally all I want to say. And I love you and keep up all the great role play. That is it.
Here. Do suggestion tickets go under the support tickets? Yes, Spawn, please. If you have a suggestion, open a ticket in support, and then just articulate that you have an idea or something you want to relate to us.
Pretty much anything other than a player report is a support ticket.
Yep.
We'll categorize it once it gets to that point.
Yeah, it's basically to help you guys out, because we've all been parts of other communities where it was like they had like 6 different ticket tools. And we've made it a little bit more streamlined and kind of put the burden on us rather than you guys, where all you have to do is, if it's not a player report, open a support ticket, and then we will help categorize it and pull the necessary people either out of it or into that ticket, rather than giving you guys 6 different tickets and making you guys figure out which ticket you need to open, because that's not fair to you guys. We're the ones who know how our organization system works. We don't expect you guys to adhere to our organizational system. Yeah, and not an evidence ticket.
Yeah,
obviously.
evidence as well.
Yeah, those are
and
pretty
as well. If you have a ticket that you want to open that you only want admins to be a part of because it's a hierarching thing or whatever, you can request that immediately, and there's gonna be no questions asked. CMs and CSs will be taken out.
Yep.
So.
And devs, basically, if you request an admin ticket, we will not ask why. There will be no judgment or questions. We will immediately remove all staff but admins. And if you like, even if you're like, hey, can I talk to like only T's, or can I talk to like only Neon or only Cha-Cha? That is also okay. We respect privacy. We respect the fact that you may have a disagreement or a situation with somebody. And we're gonna respect that as much as we can. The reason that we prefer tickets over people DMing us, unless we specifically tell you to DM us, is that there's a log. There's a paper trail in a ticket where it covers your butt, it covers our butt, and it makes sure that there is a transcript of everything that's said in those tickets, so that it's not a he said, she said situation, or a situation where, well, that's not what they said, and then they delete the message out of their DM or things like that. And it can be good things, it can be bad things. It can be any sort of situation that you feel like you need to talk to staff. It does not need to be a negative all the time. It does not need to be a positive all the time. It can be whatever you need to talk to staff about. Currency says sometimes blood is dropped as evidence. Are there plans to be able to do more with this type of evidence beyond collecting it? Yes, there are plans in place for that. Currently, evidence tickets are your best friend for that, because Mechanics get finicky with blood. Mechanics get finicky with casings. Like, as an example to our COP players, if you are not on the server when a shot is fired, you will not be able to see the casing. It doesn't mean it's not there. It just means your player can't see it, or your character can't see it. So if you're investigating, so this goes for all cops. If you are investigating something and you don't have information and you don't know where to get it, open an evidence ticket yourself and be like, hey guys, this is my case. This is what I've got. Can you guys help me? Staff can then get involved and go on your behalf to the players on the other side so that there's no meta going cross. But we can help investigate those situations with you so that your roleplay doesn't stall out, their roleplay doesn't stall out, and everything keeps moving, but everyone gets the fair board of information staying private where it should remain private. Yeah, like T said, people have literally just opened tickets with us just to discuss their RP or to like, hey, I've got this weighing on my mind. I just need to talk to somebody about it. I'm like, cool, let's chat. Like, we are here for that too. And like Brexit said also, if you ever get pulled into a ticket, it is not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes it just means, hey, we have a question for you. Or, hey, can you clarify this? We will always, always, always have a conversation with you first and foremost before anything happens after that. And I will state for transparency purposes, the few times that situations have happened where someone has been given some form of like, you know, a suspension or something like that, it's usually because of what happens in the ticket, not necessarily because of like what happened in the front end. We always want to give the benefit of the doubt and have a conversation with you guys first because we can't see or know everything. We have a lot of logs, we have a lot of eyes on a lot of places, but at the end of the day, this is a 24-hour server spread across multiple time zones all over the world. We're going to miss things. So sometimes just having a conversation with you guys gets clarity on things and we're able to go, cool, okay, no problem. And we're good. Move forward. Done. Also, I will reiterate as well, and I do this in every meeting, suspensions are not the end of the world. Suspensions are us telling you, hey, you broke a rule, take a couple day break off the server, we'll see you in 2 or 3 days. It's not a big deal. It doesn't need to be made a big, you know, situation. You're not permanently banned. It's just you broke a rule, boop, slap on the wrist, come back in a couple days, we'll see you then. Happy to have you back. All right, cool. Okay, so basically 3-minute warning. If anyone has any last minute questions, suggestions, anything they'd like to bring up, please do so in the next like 3 or so minutes, or we are going to start wrapping down and we will bring the server back up as it's been down this entire time. I will ping everybody when the server is back up, as we do typically run a restart twice to make sure all the resources properly start. So you will be pinged that the server is back up. Actually, let me go ahead and get prepped for that. Let's see. Oh, they're answering questions that already answered. Cool.
Can I answer the question that's being asked about the blood drop as evidence? Because we mentioned that in command chat.
I mean, yeah, but we literally just answered that. But go ahead and tack onto that. Absolutely.
So it plays into the opening and evidence ticket. It was so okay. The reason I wanted to discuss it is because when we are doing ice contact, sometimes players give us what their blood type is, and they just arbitrarily tell us, oh, I'm O negative, and we write it down. But that was an oversight because we totally forgot that blood evidence is actually a physical item, and when your character's created, you are given a physical blood type. So we're going to go through, Pillbox and EMS are going through the ice contacts, and we're probably going to be updating it. So if you came in and told us, I'm A positive, you're probably not anymore. And anytime there's an investigation where blood has to be sought out, we were discussing with EMS, Pillbox, and LEO Command a way to roleplay that, of either using the Mission Row PD forensics lab or using a lab in Pillbox where if there is a patient, it's connected to an investigation, you can get a blood sample and then open an evidence ticket, and we can get what that actual physical blood type is, so we can push investigation roleplay, we can update ice contacts with what their actual blood type physically is mechanically on the server, and move forward from there. So that's why I just wanted to speak about it, because just to clarify, there's a lot of little nuance to it.
Yes, sorry about that. I forgot we had that discussion. Spawn is asking if we can have a channel for server up-down pings, basically like where we ping you guys when the server is up or when the server is down. I'm not opposed to that. As you are correct, they do tend to get lost in general chat. We are trying to not have a sea of channels in the server, but I also understand that could be very beneficial. We will have a staff discussion on that and like the best way to implement that. Whitelist announcements is fine, but we use that for the big announcements of like, hey, there's a meeting coming up, or here's a change to our rule or something like that. We don't want it to be spammed with a bunch of servers up, servers down, because then everything else gets lost in that channel. That being said, Mew did mention this. If you guys, right now, you will notice it's not there, but there is a bot that lives just above the bot category in the list of roles on the far right side, and it's the OSRP status bot. It has a blue color as the role color. When that bot is online, the server is up. When the bot is not online, the server is down. So when you see that bot come back, that means the server is up. Now, when we're running like those last minute restarts, we're like, hey, there's an issue. We need to restart a resource. And we have to restart the server or whatever. That bot basically needs to go down, up, and then down and back up again, because we run 2 restarts to make sure everything starts properly. So when you first see the bot come back, give it a second. It's going to go back down again because we're going to run a second restart, and then the bot will come back. And that second time when the bot's up, server's good, bot stays up, and you can tell that the server is live. If the bot's not there, the server's not up. But we will definitely talk as a staff team about the best way to implement some sort. We used to actually have a status channel because we actually had a bot that would constantly read out when the server was up or down, but it was causing issues. It was spamming things. It was broken. It was a big deal. So we will discuss that as a more something that will work for that for sure. Cool. All right. That pretty much concludes the meeting. Thank you guys very much for hanging out and listening to this and chiming in. Thank you guys for being a part of the community. Seriously, like, thank you for helping build OSRP to what it is and helping us build an awesome community that you guys are proud to call home. We're proud to be staff of, and where everyone can just enjoy roleplay for what it is, which is storytelling, creativity, ingenuity, and just collaboration amongst community members. These 2 community channels will be turned off post-meeting, so they will no longer be accessible by you guys after the meeting is over. If you guys have any follow-up questions from the meeting or anything you guys would like to still discuss or anything that you guys like to talk to staff about, either open a ticket or bring it up in like help chat or something, depending on obviously what it is. Like I said before, with all the different stuff we talked about regarding like a developer app, if you guys would like to fill out one of those to join the dev team, please do so. If you guys are interested in joining the DOJ, please speak to one of the members of the DOJ or Staff Sergeant David, Sixty, or Jaybird as the 3 judges we currently have. If you have more specific question, please open a ticket with staff. Otherwise, as per usual, open a ticket, we'll talk to you. But that's pretty much it. Thank you guys very much for hanging out. We're going to get the server up here in a second. I will ping all of you guys when it is back up. And you guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday and your weekend, and please go have fun on the server and enjoy yourselves. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you very much.